I've got a handful more of these tongue-in-the-cheek ones, pull the other leg type ones, slightly jokey ones. This is a charming one which I picked up many years ago called a moon rock. Do you see it floating? Well, there's an air gap there, and it's been tethered to Earth by the cruel Earthling, that's me, to stop it from going where it wants to go, which of course is back to Mother Moon up at the sky. It's a bit of moon rock that's got disconnected and wants to go back, like an ET. Home, that's where it wants to go. Charming idea that. As you push it down, it keeps resisting and tries to float up in the air because it wants to go back to the moon. Didn't make any mention of man on the moon, do they? But never mind. Anyway, it's a nice idea, but very tongue-in-cheek and something as a little conversational piece. There's something here I made many years ago, which was an umbrella, which was it was a small miniature one, which went with an automaton. I took the handle off and put a full-sized handle, which is ridiculous, of course. When you open it up, well, it does open it up as an umbrella, but it's really meant for people with very small heads, perhaps. Oh, let's have a camera about there. Either very small heads, or possibly, I thought, well, one of my friends mentioned, what about if you're walking along and you haven't got a waterproof wristwatch? Hold it like that, it'll keep the wrist dry. So a bit of fun there. So again, it's all tongue-in-cheek stuff, but that's a bit of nonsense. There's a charming little flick book, which I've shown before, but I like this so much. It's from Linda Given of Boston, and it's called The World's Worst Flick Book. What could that be? Well, when you do this, you find it's a picture of a sloth, which are not known for doing too much activity. So let's see if we can get it in focus. He's got a sort of a smile coming when I give it. There he is. And we flick, 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 flick. One of my friends looked at it very carefully and said there's a slight movement of one of the toes at the end of the little run. But I don't think it's meant to be at all. It's just the same picture, reproduced again and again. Clever idea. I like that. And then there's a bizarre hat which I made originally for a fancy dress party, but I never wore it. It was impossible to do. It was based on one of those lovely cones which they have in Germany, which they fill with Easter goodies at Easter time. So I put on some, I think from a modelling shop, some of this paper looking like brick walls to make it look like a church steeple. There we are. It's a very large church, a bit like a witch's hat really, but it's very, very large. So on the end of it, top of it, of course, I put a little weathercock, and here's the rest of it. The trouble with this is when you put it on your head, and if I put it on your head, it'll disappear from sight anyway. But if I put that on my head, it'd be hard to walk through doors because it's so tall, and it's very, very top heavy. So it really wasn't ever practical, especially if it's one of those fancy dress parties where you're supposed to dance as well. You'd have to have so many straps around here attached to under the arm and through the neck and everything else to make it stay in one place. I think it'd be impossible. So it was never actually used. I really call it one of my little tongue-in-the-cheek toys. But it's a lot of fun to have made, and occasionally I do take it out to show people. One little final comment that we did have some people pointing out that down here in my kitchen is a can of Guinness. Well, I don't actually drink the stuff myself. My nephew, who's I mentioned in a previous visit, was a baby one time, but he's now in his mid-40s. He drinks Guinness all the time, and I said, there's a nice trick you can do with this, which I'd come across and put in the Christmas pack one year, where you get this to tilt. So this is an empty can, well, nearly empty. I'll put a little bit of fluid into it, and the idea is I'll put it on a plate just for security, so it will behave itself. You put it on a plate, and you tilt it like this, at about an angle like that, and with any luck, it stays in one place. Isn't that amazing? This is 440 milliliters in here, and to do this, you have to have, with a measuring jug usually, about 110 to make it work. It helps the fact that there is a little round sphere inside, a very clever bit of chemistry or physics, which allows the thing to gas quickly to create a wonderful head for your thing. But it's a bit wobbly, but it's actually working because it's got just the amount of, if it's too much, it'll fall over. If it's too little, it just stays upright like that. But at that particular place, incidentally, it's much better to do it with a Guinness can like this one here, which I can't do because it's full of liquid. But that it's okay, and I've done that originally. But it's much more fun with the tall can. It's really spectacular, and particularly with the Guinness can, because the Guinness contains that little sphere inside, which is a very clever degassing agent to create a nice head of Guinness. That's a lovely thing to put on the when you reach a certain stage and you realise it's going to bounce. Put it on the bar when you're having a drink and impress your friends with it. So that's what it is. And I don't drink Guinness. I don't like it, but I might open this one here later on because I enjoy pale ale. Have a go at the balancing trick. It needs a bit of clever manipulation to work out where the angle is, but you will find a Guinness with that little sphere is the best one to do. It's the most spectacular. Have fun.